What's up, everyone? All right, so we're gonna go over today's trades. Overall, today was a strong day pre-market, but things kind of slowed down at 9:30, at least for me. So that's all right. I still did well. I recouped all of Friday's loss in my first trade. In one trade today, I recouped all of Friday's loss. I was up $2,800 on my first trade. That is super solid. And that right there is the importance of keeping losses really tight. That way, when a winner comes around, just like that, boom, it makes up for 3 or 4 losses. And that's exactly what happened. On Friday, I was red on 3 out of the 3 stocks I traded. I'm pretty sure it was 3. And in any case, it was a red day. And then here we are, Monday morning, boom, one trade, recouping all that loss. One of the things that I recognized on Friday was that my window had closed. The likelihood of hitting a big winner as it was getting later and later into the day, it just wasn't going to happen. You know, unless we had a stock that came out with breaking news in the middle of the day, I just didn't think it was going to happen. Yes, it's possible something could have curled up and maybe I could have rode some of that momentum, but usually those slow curls with bigger spreads that are a little bit more of a grind, it's hard to feel comfortable taking big size, and I usually don't make a lot on them. So my window had closed, and I just accepted that. I locked it up as a red day, first red day of the month of February, second day into the month, but nonetheless, a red day. And now here I am back at it first thing Monday morning, getting in the green. So I'll walk you through my day. It started sitting down a little after 7 and looking at the S&P 500, which is what I do each morning, just to kind of take a peek at what, the overall market's looking like. So Friday, the S&P 500 was super strong. It hit all-time highs, and then it pulled back a little bit after hours. Pre-market, more or less sideways, so nothing really exciting pre-market. I was like, this is fine, nothing notable. For me, as long as the market's not doing a huge gap up or a huge gap down, I'm not really that concerned. It doesn't make a huge difference, but when we have a big move, it's something I will pay attention to. All right, so the stock that I made the most on today was CHEA. This stock is a special acquisition company that went up about 100% in less than 30 minutes. It squeezed up fast. So let's look at this one. This is our gap scanner, by the way, right here. And it's showing the leading gappers, and it's a picture of time of what things looked like pre-market at 9:30 a.m. The scanner stops. So CHEA came into the open up 98%, 8.44 million share float with 3.5 million shares of volume. Volume was a little on the light side, but not terrible. It's now moved way down the gap scan. It's up, 72%. GRRR is up 99%. So this is the gainer scanner as of right now, and it changes as the day goes on. Okay, so when I first sat down and I'm pulling up CHEA, I'm looking at it, and initially I'm like, all right, it's a special acquisition company. I know that because I look at the chart and it was trading sideways at basically $10. That's how all SPACs trade. They just trade sideways at 10. And then we have the merger, and all of a sudden we get this drop, we get some redemptions, the stock sells off a little bit, and then it starts to come back up. So this is not totally uncommon to see that kind of price action. It really doesn't surprise me. The only thing I would say is that pre-market, what was a little tricky on this was that it squeezed after hours on Friday. It popped up, kind of goes sideways, and then pre-market, it hits a high of 13. It sells off here back down to 7. So almost a 50% decline. And then it rallies back up right here to 11.25. And then it squeezes all the way up here to 16, this was the 100% move right in there. And then it sold off. All right, let's switch to a fast time frame, and I'll break down my trades on it for you. Okay, so I sit down, and one of my thoughts was this stock needs to prove itself to me. I'm not totally sure this is going to work. SPACs can be a little tricky. I've had some great trades on special acquisition companies, but they can move up and down. They can move fast. So this went from 8 all the way up to 11, and I didn't want to chase it in here. I was like, I don't know. It's moving higher, but the spreads were a little bigger. Even right now, we've got spread's not too bad, but we've got a little bit of a spread on it. And right now the volume's 7 million shares, so it's picked up. Overall, not crazy high volume today, but anyway, so So it's kind of pulling away here, but I didn't want to trade this. It was a little too tricky, a little too risky. So it pulls back down, bounces off VWAP, comes back up to 11. And right here, it actually does a perfect ABCD pattern. And I missed it. I should have taken this trade right here. I should have taken the long for the break of 11. That would have been a solid trade. And I just missed it. I looked away. I was looking at something else. And then I looked back and it was at $12. And I was like, oh man, okay, this thing is definitely moving. All right. So my first trade on it, it squeezes up here to a high of 12. It then dips down right here. It taps a high of 12.56. It drops down. And on this candle right here, on that candle, I actually bought that dip. I got a pretty nice fill, about 2,000 shares at 11.93. And then I added at 12.09 and 12.56. And this thing squeezed up to $13.50 right there. So 3,500, almost 4,000 share position, locked up $2,800 on that first trade. Now I'm only up 2,600 on it. So I ended up giving back a little profit, but that right there, that dip was awesome. Solid dip trade, starter position. It immediately got back up over 12. The reason that I bought there was we previously sort of hit 12, pulled back, and then I thought we were sort of dipping right under and we were going to come right back above that level. So my stop was about 85, maybe 75, 15, 20 cents at most, $400 of risk, and it ends up ripping up over $1 a share. So on about $400 of risk with 2,000 shares, I locked up $2,800, and then I gave back a little off the top. So it squeezes up, but then right here, it drops all the way back down. So on my second trade, I added at 1368. So that was, let's see, it was right in this area here. But the problem with this was it does a pullback. I added right here thinking it was going to break. It was like right in one of these candles. And then it drops down here to a low of 1342. I sold at 1344. I sold like basically right on support. You know, the thing is, I was like, I'm just going to get out. So 1,000 shares, lost like whatever, $230. Got back in though, as it broke over 14. And we got a squeeze here up to about 15. And then I added right here, again, little micro pullback. And on this one, boom, it dropped $1 a share. I lost like $800 on that. It comes all the way back here down to 1330. And then it comes all the way back up and back down and back up. So you can see it started to get choppy in here. I traded it a couple more times, made back a little bit of the loss to get up $2,600, $2,700. But it ended up sort of stalling out up here. And with some topping tails, I just said, you know what? All right, I'm going to just wait. It pulls back down to VWAP. I thought about doing a bounce off VWAP, but it broke and it went low. It sold off and went lower. Tried to get back up again, sold off again. And then at the open, there was nothing for me to trade. So that was my first trade of the day. And it was a solid trade, put me on the leaderboard with $2,600 of profit. The next stock that I traded was SNES, and I'm down $500 on it. This one is kind of interesting. So SNES, I see it on my scans. It's moving up the scans right here, up the top gainer scanner. And I saw the float on this is like 300,000 shares. I was like, okay, look at the daily. It's, got a reverse split back here. It's not really a recent reverse split setup, but it has a lot of room up to the 200. It also had news. So I'm like, okay, this one has news. It's moving higher. And I jumped in it on this micro pullback. Let's see. I have to go a 10-second chart on this. So I got in this at $1.19, which is like high a day. I got in it right here. Okay, so it squeezes up, it pulls back, it comes up. This is a micro pullback. There's no question about it. And you could look at it and say, oh, this is a bad trade. But in the moment, this is a micro pullback with an entry at 119. And I was like, okay, I'm looking for this candle to be green and a move up towards 130, 140. It pops up to 124. Lots of volume, but lots of sell orders. And it couldn't break, came down, and I sold. Probably it was on this candle here that I bailed out. So I got out, took a $500 loss on it, and it is what it is. I cut the loss, just let it go. It was the right move. It came down all the way down to 90 cents a share. Would have been a much bigger loss if I kept holding. So cut the loss, moved on. All right, that was SNES. Next trade, GNPX. GNPX had been mentioned earlier as a reverse split stock that was squeezing up this morning with some news. That was when it had this first candle wick at about 7.45. It went from $6 to about $8 and then dropped back down. So I didn't think a whole lot of it. I was like, well, it's kind of a risky stock. I don't know. I'm not sure it's safe to trade. And then let's see. This one ends up coming back up right here. And as it came back up right here, I didn't even call this one out. I just took this one on my own just as a quick scalp trade. I got in this for the break of 8, and it squeezed up to a high of $8.99, $9. And I took profit off the table, and that was $1,500 right there. Now it's sold off, and then it came back up again. And I thought about going for it a second time, but I didn't. I was like, I just think this is a little too, if it was going to go, it should have gone here, and it really should have gone here. And now we've got these two topping tails. I think I better just leave it alone. So I didn't get back in when it curled back up here. I saw some people got a nice trade on that there, but I sort of thought it was risky. I was like, I'm just going to take a quick little scalp. It's probably in it for less than a minute. Was in it and back out. All right, so that was GMPX. And then my final trade was on VLCN. VLCN, another stock that's a reverse split. The thing with this one is it pops up kind of like going right into the open. And I got in it as it broke over like 468, I think it was. Hits a high of 5. I sort of thought this might move higher. The level 2 was very thin. There weren't a lot of orders. So it was like 5, then 565. And then it was very quickly went up to $10, $11 a share. It's got that daily chart with so much room to the 200. When these start to move, they can move, but it just sort of, again, very low float, but it just sort of stalled out. It just didn't have the momentum today. News catalyst wasn't really strong enough. So I don't know. I just ended up being a very small trade, small size, made $151 on it. And then we went into the opening bell. All right, so the market opens, and at the open, CHEA sort of pulled back a little bit. This one, I was sort of over because it was below VWAP, so wasn't interested in that. RVSN had some news this morning, patent approval from the Indian Patent Office. I sort of was like, I saw that news and I was like, I don't know, not sure. But it squeezes from 11 to 14 on light volume. It pulls back, it comes back up, goes higher, and I could have traded it, but the relative volume is low. I just didn't think it really fit within my wheelhouse of being something I should trade. So left that one alone. DWAC, this one also popped up today. Nice on the daily. Just nice red to green move. Again, felt the risk was a little too high. BRTX, this was moving a little bit earlier. Looks like it's kind of rallied back up a bit here, but had a pre-market high of like 467 and then pulled back. So I wasn't that interested in that. There were a couple of penny stocks that I was looking at just for the small account challenge, but I didn't see anything there. The YTEN did make a nice move from 30 cents up to 55 cents, but I didn't trade that. So leading volume today is on GRRR, 119 million shares of volume, but it's a 36 million share float stock. It definitely made a nice move, but not my cup of tea. ADVM, MOR, higher volume, some news on MOR. There was news of I think something with a buyout, advanced talks and a takeover. So I don't know. There was that. Mark, cheaper, CL or CTLT, a little more expensive, higher float. None of these were really that interesting. So, I'm glad I showed up today. And look, $3,800 is great. That's a solid start to the week. That's a good day. It recoups, as I said, my loss on Friday. So that's great. So my account is now, in terms of my P&L, my P&L equity curve is at all-time highs. So that's great. Not in a drawdown. I'm happy about that. Getting February off to a good start. I think February 1st was about $3,800 also. and then was red on Friday, and now green again today. So you know what? Got the first red day of the month out of the way. Now I don't have to stress about trying to string together a no red month. That can be stressful for me because I start thinking like, it's been 8 green days in a row. It's been 10, it's been 12, it's been 15. And then I'm really not wanting to lose the streak. So it's kind of good for me just to have small red days once a week, just to get it out of my system and not stress about it. So had a red day yesterday or Friday, no big deal. Back at it here Monday morning, solid green day. And really, I think the biggest lesson here is that keep your losses tight. Look, I did lose on SNES today. I also had a couple losses on CHEA, and VLCN wasn't that great. But when things are moving, you gotta step up, be aggressive, and that's what I did. So anyways, finished with a pretty solid day today. I've got someone in the background. So I'm gonna let you guys go, and I'll be back at it first thing tomorrow morning. As always, reminder, trading is risky. My results aren't typical. Manage your risk, take it slow. I'll see you back here for my recap bright and early tomorrow.